Hello, viewers, and welcome to the Candid Expressions show. With me is Juvinaris. He's the director of Streetnizers Ministries, and he will tell you a little bit about himself. And to my immediate left is Peter Kimani, and he is an entrepreneur, and he will tell you a little bit about himself. And before we go into our today's topic, I would like to allow this gentleman to tell you in few words exactly who they are, what they do, and how. Then we will see how it ties into our topic of today, which is about parenting the digital teen. Over to you, Juvinaris.
Yes, thank you so much for the invite, and of course, thank you for hosting me.
You're welcome.
And above all, we thank God for the beautiful day,
Absolutely.
beautiful weather,
Yes.
and keeping us up to 2024.
Yes, we thank
Yes, yes. My name is, you've said, is Juvinaris Chalo. I'm the founder of the program called Streetnizers. It's about dealing with the young people for the last 18 years. It's been a journey.
God. Wow. So it's a full teenager.
It's a full teenager. So you can imagine 18 years dealing with
Yes.
young people from
Yes.
the streets,
Yes.
picking them up, cleaning them, putting them on the right direction,
Yes.
rebelling.
Yes.
Some don't want, some want.
Right.
It's been a journey, but so far so good. I've learned a lot, and I'm glad to share.
Awesome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yes, Peter.
Hi viewers, and thank you Rosemary for having me here. Yes, as you said earlier, my name is Peter Karanja. I'm a parent of a teenager, and I am an entrepreneur. I do logistics and also in real estate as a property manager. And I'm passionate about teenagers. We do a lot of mentorship in high schools, and we have a whole year program for schools. And thank you. Looking forward to a great discussion.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
My name is Rosemary Zembi, and I'm a certified professional life coach. And on top of that, I'm a parent of so many teenagers, so many, and young adults. I think I've worked with so many teenagers through my program Made to Thrive, or Twinkle Little Stars Incorporated, and most recently the Wimberley Kids Club right here at the Wimberley Place. And so today we kind of just came together, and we're just hanging out as friends who are passionate about service, and especially to the young people. So we're having a very general talk to share among ourselves as we share with you, our viewers, who may be probably feeling trapped or confused about the same things that we're going to share here today as pertains the young people of this generation. When we look back to when we grew up, well, let me say when I grew up, in the 80s and 90s as a teenager, it was, first of all, I grew up in the village, and we didn't have some of the challenges that we are having today. You know, like for you guys, I don't know about your upbringing, but we never had anything like modern technology. Like we never had access to TV. I never had access to radio. Radio, I would hear it once in a while. It was a very precious property for my grandma, which was never to be touched by a child. We never had cell phones or even house phones. So much of what we did for our social life was physical. We met in person, either in school or in church or the local well where we're fetching water, we're fetching firewood, and we would have our social talk there. And after that, you go back home, and that's the end of your social
That's
journey.
it. Yeah.
And we never knew anything outside our little world. I don't know whether that's good or bad, according to you, according to your viewer. But I look at today's teenagers whose social life is right here in their hands. I mean, if they don't have a cell phone, which is smart, by the way, not the regular ones, it's a smart cell phone, or it's a tablet, iPad, or whatever, or it's a laptop, or something. I mean, they have access to beyond their immediate community, their country. Really, they have access to the whole world right here in the palm of their hands. And I want to pose a question to you two. And maybe a viewer, if you once you see this, if you have a comment to this, you could also put a comment at the bottom of our page there. But I want to ask you guys, when you look at the lifestyle that I just described for me growing up, and for you guys, which you agree we kind of grew up in the same kind of setup, and today's teens, do you feel like we were more advantaged or disadvantaged, or are they more advantaged or disadvantaged, and why?
I think I'll put it this way. You see, when we were growing up, that was our time. And things have changed.
Right.
Seasons have changed.
Yes.
And we have to embrace it.
Absolutely.
And in those days, I think exposure wasn't there, which is very good also to have exposure. And because we grew in the village, as I did, there was no much like what we are seeing today. And now we cannot compare the 80s and then today's.
Right.
Because time has really...
That's 40 years.
Yeah, those are 40
years different.
Things have really changed.
Right.
And we have to embrace what comes.
Right.
Like now we're talking about climate change. In those days, in the 80s, there used to be rain throughout. Today, things have really changed.
Right.
People are getting tapped water while we used to go to the rivers and fetch waters. Most of the rivers are dry. So we have to admit these things have changed, and we have to align ourselves to that system. The same thing applies to our teenagers. Yes, we grew up going to school without shoes.
Right.
But now today's generation, that is the millennials, they have found shoes. While us to wear shoes it's like a norm, it's like a taboo, because not many people could afford shoes. So nowadays, shoe is a must. Technology has come. What do? We run away from it, we embrace it.
No, we cannot.
But how have we embraced it, especially for our teenagers? Of course, there's positive and the negative part of it.
Right.
So what do? We move with it and embrace what is coming up and see how we're going to groom our children in ways of today and embrace them, and I think probably teach them. And that's why we're here to at least give some details, some ideas on our viewers and everybody watching us, so they can embrace something and apply to their teenagers.
Right.
So you can definitely swim
So we
through
can
this.
coexist
Exactly.
with them, otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, we have to.
Thank you so much, and
Wow.
Peter.
Wow. History is good. And we are
Yeah.
coming from
Yeah, it's always
from
good.
those days, back in the days.
Right.
And sure, things have changed. We're in the information world, in the
Yes.
information generation. And we appreciate that things have really changed, and we need to embrace it. Technology has come with its own goods and also its bad side.
Yeah.
Right now, I bet it's only in Africa or in the less developed countries where most of things are just allowed to come in. We have not put checks and balances. Yeah. So that means our kids can access some things they should not be accessing, and which end up actually destroying our community. On the other hand, the exposure is so great
Yes,
that now I
absolutely.
can be able to know what is happening outside there and adopt some of the practices that are good outside
Right.
there. As in, it has become a global village, so whatever is affecting a developed country, later or sooner or later it will also affect us. So when you are able to do those exchange, you do exchange notes. We can look at our history and pick 1 or 2, 3 things
Right.
that are helpful, especially the one-on-one conversations. They were really quite something.
Very.
And to date, perhaps all we need to do is cut the screen time, which is a struggle not only for teenagers,
Even
but
for the
us.
adults, absolutely, absolutely. It's an addiction.
Sure, Rosemary. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
So that I appreciate your feedback and your response to that. So what I'm picking from these two gentlemen and just hearing what your response is and yours, there are 2 different responses, but what I'm hearing is there are pros and cons, like with anything in life.
Yes.
And so even though back then we may have had a disadvantage of lack of exposure, going back to your response, we were not exposed. And exposure is very powerful. It opens up your mind. Like I keep saying, like a parachute. Because if a parachute is not open, it cannot function.
It can't.
If a brain is not open, it can only function within a very limited parameters. You're very limited to what you can think, because that's all your friends and neighbors can think, because you all have the same lack of exposure. And then we had that advantage of face-to-face, the face-to-face and in-person social. And relationships, I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like even relationships back then were more genuine. They were solid. They were founded on what I see is what I get. And we had this in-person relationship.
Yes.
Nowadays, people don't even want, even adults.
Yeah.
It's like we've lost our art of communication, the authentic communication. We just quickly type it. Nowadays, even the machines are so smart. As you type, it completes the statement for you. You send, right? You even have pre-prepared short response messages. So we are not really in touch with each other and with reality. And then again now, the disadvantage of the today's, or the millennials, Gen Zs and all, here they have access to all this technology. It's good. It can be good. Really, I think everything is good. It's how you utilize it. So for them, again, which has become a problem for the adults, but because we are focusing more on the young people who are molding, I imagine that the disadvantage is it's opened them up to everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, the in-between and everything, right, like you said.
Yeah.
And so yes, it does open them up to the world out there, which we never had exposure to growing up, which is a good thing, if they know, like you said. If we don't show them how to utilize what they have, it becomes very destructive. But it can actually be used as a constructive tool and as a constructive era. We could say this is a time that they could use the technology for their own good. In other words, they could know about the world there before they ever get there.
Right.
Or they could even gain knowledge from an outside country or world, their Western world, while they're here.
Yeah.
That's why today we're able to do online degrees. People are doing degrees right from their house, from the village. As long as you have technology, you're able to gain a university degree from out there. We never knew anything like that before. We never even knew computers. And in fact, I remember even the first time I got my email address, I think it was 1997 or 8 there. But many people of our generation didn't even know anything about email until the 2000s, the millennium.
Yes.
Now, talking about what you just said about the filters, I wonder whether, do you think we don't have them or we just don't enforce them? Because technology is out and available to everybody.
Yes.
So do you think we just don't have those filters or we just don't apply them? Because again, if as a parent I buy my child a smartphone or a smart tablet, and I don't know about the filter, so I don't put the filters.
Yes.
If we have internet and it's installed, and almost every homestead now has Wi-Fi, and the parents don't ask the service providers to put the filters for what pages the children are visiting, or something, so that when a child visits some restricted sites, a parent is notified. If we don't put that, it won't work. But then again, I will not request that if I am not aware that there is such a filter. So is it that we don't have filters or we just don't enforce them?
Wow, quite a good question. And maybe before I answer that, the sad reality, we are so well networked, yet, and especially for this generation, well networked, it's so lonely.
You can say that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're living in a very lonely...
it is easier to gauge my relationship on my social media. How many friends do I have? How many people are following me?
When you post something, how many
Twitter.
People like?
Yes.
How many likes do you get, right?
Yet still, I feel lonely.
Yeah.
That tells me the one-on-one has a big place, even in this generation. Of course, you may not have all people you're talking to. At least you have a small group of people where you can bounce your ideas, people who know you one-on-one.
Right.
That touch is very keen. Now, back to that question, is it that we don't have the filters? It's a broad question, and perhaps trying to answer it or to break it down, it's more, first we'll start with when you have something that is so powerful, you need to have legislation on it. If you're giving people guns, you even take them through a training.
Yeah.
You are given a license to use a gun. I mean,
but before you're given, you must qualify.
You must qualify. And in today's age, we need to know what phones are or what technology is,
What it comes with.
what
really.
it comes with,
Yeah.
because you can bomb yourself with it.
It's true.
At the same time, you cannot, the way you can also use a gun to protect yourself, the same way you can also use the technology to actually make your life totally different in a good life.
In a good way.
In a
Right.
good way.
Mm.
So there is that, the baby boomers, those who are coming, the late baby boomers, parents who are coming in, they are learning these things, and they are like, oh, I didn't know this exists, I didn't know that this exists. That tells you there is a gap when it comes to the knowledge about technology. So we need to actually educate ourselves as parents, so that at least you know what kind of filters actually exist. Because if you actually don't know even what internet is coming with, there is no need even of knowing the filters first.
That is true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I have to know what does it entail, so that the filters have to be placed here, another boundary there, another boundary here. So, and also in our government, even our leaders, I bet I overhear, I don't know how true that is.
Uh-huh.
Some so developed countries like China and all that, there is a way they restrict
The government.
the government.
Yes,
there is a way
where they
can
filter
restrict.
what can come even
Yes,
into their country.
Exactly.
Right.
So you find we have so very young kids who are addicted to some things, to pornography and all that, and they're very young. You're like, oh, we can have something that can be done.
Right.
At a certain
It's
age,
true.
children are so naive.
Yes. And
So,
curious at
and
the same
curious.
time. Yes.
So when I go to the internet, I say, on the other hand, now the responsibility also falls on us, on the parent as well.
It still comes back to the
It's,
adults.
yes, it's because now it's the family where we are making the citizens, It's in a family setup. So as a parent, you educate yourself about the digital age. At the same time, you also do the filters.
Yes.
And above it all, have the software.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the children, you can have all those things, but if the inside is rotten, it will still find a way out to express itself. So
Right.
we need to put the software in our children,
Right.
let them know this and this exist there, and this can benefit you, and especially for teenagers.
Can you say that in layman's language when you say let's put the software in the children?
Oh,
Because not everybody understands software. Software, of course, is a technology term, but I
Right.
don't want to assume
Yes.
every parent or anybody watching
yes.
or leader
Mm.
understands software. When you say it's up to us to put the software in the children. Yeah.
Let me quote the scriptures. They say,
Yes, that's perfect.
train a child
The
in
way
the way he should go, and even when they get old, they won't forget that road.
Right.
So there is a lot of training that has to be done. You are training someone who does not know anything about that subject.
Which means parents, we must start training them. As soon as we start training them how to say daddy, mommy,
Yes.
cat, water,
Yes.
that means they're ready to be trained.
Yeah.
Yes.
And our children are tech savvy. The way they are getting these things
Mhm.
to
Very
do with
fast.
technology is so fast.
They're very good. Faster than the parents. I'm
Yes, faster
telling
than the
you.
parents.
Yes.
So it's us also for us parents to up our game on that
Mhm.
area. So the software we need to actually train and have our training should be based on there are this education that easily fluctuates. It is not absolute. You can't tell whether you are talking the truth or it is not true. So we need based on something that does not move, values that do not move.
Mhm. And the
For
word
me,
of God
for
is
me
that.
as a Christian, I base it on the scriptures that
The Bible.
this is where this is my standard.
Yes.
So I'm striving to reach that standard, and that is the standard I should train my children, so that they can now easily say no to this, no to that, even if it is brought on their faces. They're like, oh no, I have a choice. Yeah,
Good.
That's what my-
Exactly.
That's perfect.
Mm.
What do you have to say
I think to
about
add on
that?
that is,
Uh-huh.
I would say there's something you've quoted.
Yeah.
You said this software, this issue of having a mobile phone,
Yeah.
has made people so mtu ako peke yake.
Yes.
You're just alone.
Mm.
It's true because I think I've stayed for about 2-3 years without having a physical
Right.
meeting with Rosemary.
Yes.
And now here I am. But we've been talking on phone. It's like we've been meeting every day.
Mm.
So I also think technology, with all its benefits,
Yes.
it has made people become, I'd say, isolated.
Mhm.
And it's good to have it.
Yes.
It's good to embrace it, and also it's very important to, of course, have some limits in it.
Right.
Sometimes you need to just close up and say, let me go and stay with my children, let me go and see my friends, let me go and do this and these and physically, so that you can definitely, because the days we were growing up, we could meet, like you're meeting every day. You're talking, you
go
know,
to school,
the
you walk to
problem
school, you
of this
go to
person,
church, yes.
the problem of this other teenager,
Yes.
where there's something happening. But today, if I want anything, just Google.
Yes.
So that's one thing. And
Google University.
as you said,
Yeah.
myself and the program that I run, I always teach them through the Word of God,
Right.
just as you've said,
Yes.
because that is what doesn't change.
Yes.
And if parents watching us and everybody who's watching us can train their child in that bottom,
Yes.
that basic,
Yes.
however much they'll go probably astray with their peers out there,
Yes.
they'll one day come to the line and understand. Because at the end of the day, the technology that was there 10 years ago is not the one which is here today.
Yes.
Things are evolving, things are changing.
Yes.
The world has just become a global village,
Sure.
and we cannot deny that.
Right.
And because our children have also grown, they are now, the techno-savvy kids, it's the responsibility of the parent to walk with that child.
Right.
And by the time they know themselves, as in they discover themselves, it's the responsibility of the parent to tell their child, this is right and this is wrong. So if you go on this side, the Bible says that I think Psalms 1:1. If you walk with this, if you stand with this, if you sit with this, these are the consequences. And you see when the child is alerted in advance like that by the parent, they'll be like, okay, I was told not to go to that side. I was told not to walk with this friend. I was told not to do this. And I think
Wow.
the training has to be with the parent.
Sure.
And also we have to become more vocal as people now who have already grown up.
Yes.
We have to get more mentors and more mentors and more
Right.
people coming on board and having shows like this one.
Yes.
And highlighting this because the information is out there so that these young people can learn and emulate some of the things we are telling them, because we perish for lack of knowledge.
True.
And now knowledge, we have it here. That's why we have this amazing show.
It's true. Well, I'm so glad to hear that
Yeah.
what you're saying, and I'm sure it resonates with a lot of parents
Exactly.
and even children, young people that are watching this. And what you're saying is we must install the right software.
Exactly.
And yes, the firm foundation that we have, it's like a computer. It cannot operate without the operating system. So it's either iOS or it's Windows or whatever. But it must have a basic operating system,
Exactly.
which dictates how the rest will be. And I like to use the technology because we're talking about technology here. When you have, for example, a Windows computer, an operating system that's Windows, there's a certain version of Windows that may not be able to support a certain application. For example, if you're running, for example, the older Windows 2000 or Windows 98, let's just go back because we're talking about we grew up back in the 80s and 90s. If we take the computer with Windows 98, yes, the Windows may still be working intact. But now you bring Microsoft Office 2016. There's not a day they'll ever communicate.
Never.
This Office, it is a window-based application, but this Windows is too old to handle this new Microsoft Office or Microsoft Word. So it's in the same way, almost like we're saying, if a parent's mindset is still stuck in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and now you're trying to raise a child in 2022, 2023, 2024, who is a teenager, and you're raising them with the same mindset of how you were raised. And many parents, I hear them say, this is not how I was when I was a child, we did this. When I was a child, we did this. We used to do this. Okay, you used to.
You used to.
That's in the past, guys.
That's
So
the
we
past.
must move past the past. And we must embrace the now
The now.
and what's coming. The one thing that is constant is change. Constant
Yeah.
change is constant, and whether you like it or not, in order for anything new to happen, any growth to occur, there must be a change.
Must be.
The Bible says that you cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. The same way you cannot pour old wine into new wineskins.
Yeah.
There is no compatibility. It will burst because the alkalinity is not the same.
It's not the same.
So it's the same way. We cannot put our old parenting style that we were parented with in the 1980s, their 90s, into children that we're parenting in 2015, 2018 as teenagers, because things are very, very different. And so sometimes I feel like as parents, I don't know what you guys have to say, but I feel like sometimes as parents, we're so insecure in our own element. If I don't know today's technology, if I'm not familiar, let's say for example, I dropped out of school, never had exposure. We keep going back to that word, exposure, very powerful. If I never got exposed to technology and now I have a teenager, that teenager has friends who have, even if I haven't bought them a cell phone, but they have friends who have this exposure, and so they come in and bring them into their circle. So guess what? My child is actually more exposed into the world of technology than I am. So in a way, that might make me feel very insecure and inferior. So to hide that, nobody, especially no parent, wants to show their children their insecurity. And so instead of embracing the fact that I am the one who needs to up my game, I'm the one who needs to really get with the technology, get with the times, then I want to put that child down and send them back 30 years ago and tell her, you need to go back and grow like 25 years ago. Today you need to go and grow, like become a teenager in the 80s or the 90s. Right. You know, do you think that there is a challenge, that challenge, because I've seen that, and especially when you're working with teenagers and their parents, when you listen to them, even the way they discuss or the way they reason out, you can hear there's a disconnect. And my observation has been there's several parents who have like dismissed technology to the younger children or to their children, and they'll even have a phone and say, oh, just give it to my son, I don't know what to do with this thing. You know, we're taught knowledge is very powerful. Information is very powerful. Sure. Now you entrust that gadget into the hands of this same young person that you're complaining about that is being misled by technology. So that's a conflict right there. You want to challenge their techie savvy brain, but you still want to, basically you relinquish your power onto them because you don't want to go into the space of learning. And it takes discipline. And you know discipline is one of the hardest things even as adults. And discipline, I remember back in the day we were being told that discipline, it comes from the word disciple. Disciple. You cannot be discipled if you're not willing to have the discipline to be molded. So even with technology, there must be the discipline for you and the sacrifice for you to want to understand, like you said earlier, how these gadgets work before you buy them and arm your children with them, which are like bombs waiting to explode, or like guns and they have no skills. And you also have no skills how to use them for your own protection, or to even know, hey, when I see this is actually dangerous. It's like you're just there, and any click, it opens everywhere. And, you know, unfortunately, when we don't know where we're going, the systems know, the computers know, the laptops, the tablets, the phones, technology knows. So it says, oh, Juvinaris, the other day he came and watched this, and it's a porn video, for example. Just one. Guess what? It will feed you, every time you log in with your ID, it feeds you with all those things in that line. If you are researching on guns, it will feed you, every time you log in, it feeds your computer with that, and it keeps even popping windows, and out of curiosity, you just click, more come. Now maybe for me, I went in there and I clicked and I saw something about suicide, or maybe assisted suicide, anything suicide comes. So there's everything. If you went there and you read about how to keep my heart pure, all that is gonna come is that. So we also must know what's available there, how does technology really work? And how does it, like once it recognizes your ID and what you tend to watch or look for, how does it know to bring that to you? So then you will know what to click and what not to click.
I think that's what you're saying. I think the bottom line will always begin with the parent, because as a parent, yes, I don't want my kid or my children or the teenagers I'm taking care of not to know that I'm a techno savvy. But now you have to use the wisdom as a parent, because God gave you this child, God gave you this organization, God gave you this program, knowing you are able to do it. So you have to use your wisdom of the knowledge that you have to be able to sit down with your child, maybe that teenager you are taking care of, and be ahead of him or her. And I think with that, you definitely do some correction. Because the moment you correct that child in that wisdom, you may not be good in, of course, the techno-savvy issue, the laptops, but they are good at them. But there is the way you can do it, with that knowledge that God has given you, and they align. Because it is good, as you've said, to disciple them. Because if you're going to church on a Sunday morning, and then you are leaving your teenagers in the house, you are not telling them to follow you. Will they really come? But if you go to church, then you tell them, follow me, that is the way they will start following. If you come to your house as a parent, you are smoking cigarettes, and then you are there with your children, what do you think they do? Because I've come to realize, Rosemary, people learn more things of what we do than what we say.
The old monkey see, monkey do.
So what I'm doing,
yes,
they may not be really making sense, but they are really keen on the things I'm doing more than what I'm telling them. So if I start telling them, you know what, this laptop is for ABCD, and when I have my own laptop, that is what I'm doing, they'll see and they'll be like, okay, so that is what he's doing. They will definitely adopt to that.
Right.
So I think that is one area that we can do if we are not that techno-savvy to save this generation. And above all, as a parent, as a leader, it is your responsibility also to make sure the teenagers you have, or the children that God has given you, you train them, as you say, to the ways that you want them to be. Because there'll be a tomorrow, and maybe that tomorrow you'll not be there. How will you have left that legacy? Just like the way we keep saying, legacy. What will you have planted to those teenagers? And I think it's a big responsibility to the parents. And that's why I think also in our Kenyan government, the systems of education have changed.
Yes.
From our own curriculum to the
CBC,
whereby now the parent is included there. You have to do some things. Because there has been, too many parents have been parenting, but they are away. You'll be given a ministry to do, but you've led the ministry to other people to do it. I've been given a program to do, but I've left it to other people. So that CBC and this program that are coming up is for me and my child, for me and my teenager, and for me with the program that I'm running, to be able to mentor them practically. Because it is more like you say, discipling. It's more practical to disciple than just let people do do that. Practical will definitely make more parents become, better to train their children, of course, and become, what we need is for them to become better for themselves, discover who they are, and use these things to make money. There's so much.
I'm so glad. You said something there that answered a question I was going to ask. When you said that for those who may never be able to learn the technology, because let's face it, some parents also get children when they're a little bit older, and the older you get, the harder it is to learn new technology. It's hard. They say it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. It's hard. They have enough responsibility and stresses of life in their minds to start thinking of, and are they going to go and enroll in a classroom? Or how will they learn? So I was going to ask you, what do you think can be done for those parents who might never really get in touch with technology, but they are raising children in this technology era that we're in? So you've answered the question very well. But I would believe for that to happen, first of all, so that this child doesn't feel like they are more superior than you are, and even though you're providing them the gadgets, and so that to make sure that they can also listen to your wisdom, even if you don't understand the technology, I think we have to start cultivating a good and trust relationship between the parents and the children, and not when they're teenagers.
Not when they're teenagers.
Much younger, like we were saying. When you can teach them how to speak, you teach them how to recite the Bible, you teach them how to pray, you teach them how to say sorry, how to say thank you, how to say please. Teach them that respect, and teach them how to serve, even around